Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Sky Fantasy Football Podcast by Fantasy Football Hub. My name is Andrew and I'm joined as usual by two of the most successful managers in the game. Firstly, Paul McAnulty. Paul, how has your Sky week gone?
Yes, pretty average to be honest. No transfers left, so can't make up much ground.
Ings today, or Son, or someone else?
Yeah, Ings today.
Ings.
So obviously 12 points. What could have been 34, I guess.
Unbelievable. That's what's that? 22-point swing potentially, just off a crappy penalty. We also have former Sky winner Dan Cox with us. Dan, how has your week been? I saw you cussing and swearing on Friday. Has it got any better?
No, it's just rubbish, mate. I just want it to finish, to be honest. I've got no transfers left. Like we spoke about, like all the things we could see, like, you know, we'd have been all over Antonio, wouldn't we, Friday night, and picking up points. And we knew Burnley were going to keep a clean sheet at Norwich, but because we've got no transfers left, we're just watching everyone else rack up the points, which is making us sink down a bit. So yeah, it's been pretty rubbish to be honest, mate. And Ings today with a missed penalty was just a bit disappointing.
Killer. Yeah, I think we worked out just really briefly. We would have definitely have had Antonio for his 4-goal haul. We would have had Kane for his, even though he blanked when we would have brought him in, he would have had 2 braces since. David Silva last week, we were like 0% get on David Silva. Obviously a massive haul on the Wednesday night. And yes, and then, we would have brought in either Pope or a Billy defender. It's just stressful watching everyone else getting all the points, and we're sat here every week. No transfers left, crap captain picks. We move on. Welcome everyone in the chat. Reese Bloomer unfortunately was not on Kane, was on Ings. The penalty miss was a letdown. 150 ahead in my mini league. Reese, that is good going. You can probably start spending that now. Mark Daniels, even all, yes, I had him captain. Well done, Mark. Fantastic. Kane captain, massive haul there. Marius Ionita, yes, but my second team, the good one had Son. Not too great from Son. A little bit unfortunate. I think it was going wide. Sam Cull was on Kane. Not sure who to go for tomorrow. Henderson or Burn help. We are on hand to help. We'll run through that in a bit. Ian Parrin, Adam Byram, evening guys, evening both. And Marius, discovered this season running low on transfers, leads on missing essential captains. Absolutely, that is what we are all crying over spilt milk at the moment. Liam Dorian, even everyone. So Liam is leading the leaderboard. He's potentially on the way to 50k. Evening, Liam. Great to have you on. And evening, George Butler. Great to have you all on. As we are live, so anyone who hasn't said hello, please feel free to join in the chat at any time. Let us know your thoughts on the topics, throughout the relevant sections, and feel free to ask some questions for us to answer at the end. If you haven't subscribed to us yet, please press the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. I believe we're on about 189 now. We want to try and get to 200 by the end of next week. And make sure you set the alerts so you don't miss any of our live streams. So we're into the final stretch of the Sky Fantasy season with just 17 matches left to be played, with just 4 game days left. Mini leagues will be won and lost, as will a big Sky Fantasy prize of £50,000 waiting for someone to get their hands on it. Exciting and stressful times for some of our watchers and listeners who are heavily involved in the chase, which includes a couple of the guys who are saying hello now. Aaron Alton, hello there, Aaron. I think I got a quick check earlier. I think you're 5th overall. Lee Williams, hi there, Lee. Hi there, Glenn. Glenn asks, "Where's the wine, Dan?" That's off Glenn Murray. And Dan,
has he sent it?
As he said, he's asked you to send it, and Dan Perry says hello as well. So what we will discuss in this was, this is definitely our penultimate podcast of the season. We are going to do one next week. We'll touch on that in a bit. But we're going to do a quick review of Game Week 49 and so far into Game Week 50. We're going to look at some key ownership stats, remaining captain and differential options for the final 4 game days. We'll confirm our planned moves for the coming week. We will answer all the questions we've had through on Twitter and anything we get on the stream. We'll have a quick look at the top of the Hub's £250 second half league, a look at the race to 50k, and as usual, we will finish with Dan's rant. So firstly, Paul, could you briefly talk us through the key points from the last Sky game week?
Yeah, so since we were on last Sunday, looking at Monday's game was the Man United Southampton game. It was a good opportunity for people to bring in Man United assets, getting the extra game, knowing that they've got a settled team as well. Unfortunately for anyone that brought in Greenwood or any of the Man United defenders, perhaps for Soyuncu, didn't work out so well. But those that held Rashford and Martial were rewarded with goals, with most people being on Bruno picking up the solitary assist. On Tuesday night was the Chelsea Norwich game. So people that had held on to Willian were probably disappointed with only a couple of points. Pulisic assist. And I know as from Twitter, I know that Twitter's not reality in a lot of times, but I saw a lot of people bringing in or taking punts on Giroud. So those people were rewarded, I guess.
For the 0.7% owned when we streamed last Sunday. So whoever picked him up, well done.
Yeah. Wednesday, Wolves defenders, those that own Wolves defenders would have been disappointed. I know Doherty didn't play, but what was it, Chris Wood's goal in the 96th minute or something like that? Plus the Boley and Rui Patricio clean sheets. Everyone expected City to haul against Bournemouth, but it was only 2-1. So David Silva and Jesus. I did see a few people had captained Jesus, I think, on that's on Twitter as well. Again, those holding De Bruyne and were perhaps going to captain him were left disappointed. Spurs away to Newcastle, so those that kept on to Kane based on, I think, your recommendation, Fergie, a couple of weeks ago, they wouldn't have been duly rewarded from the Everton game that we had suggested bringing him in for, but he got a double there in Son, so probably the two, along with Ori, making the three most owned Spurs players were rewarded in that game. And in Arsenal 2, Liverpool 1, so Arteta resting Aubameyang, but they still managed to beat Liverpool. So a lot of people would have been on Van Dijk. I was on Salah. Obviously, both not getting returns. Thursday night, it was really like, I guess most people would have been on Man United assets. So anyone that did bring the defender in on Monday night would have been rewarded with the clean sheet points on Thursday night. Again, Rashford and Martial with the goals scored. So if anyone in the game was taking a differential punt there, Fernandes did get an assist, and I think he got man of the match. Was that? It was one of the games that he got man of the match for.
I think he got man of the match, but I don't think he got given the assist in Sky. I want to say I might be wrong there. But I think
that's right. He finished on 5 points. Yeah. And Danny Ings scoring again for Southampton. He would have been highly captained in that game. Everton drew with Villa. I don't think there would have been a lot of owned players that picked up points there. And Leicester beat Sheffield United 2-0. And Vardy picked up man of the match and assist. So 8-point return for Vardy. Friday night, just the one game, West Ham, Watford. Antonio scoring. Bowen would have been well captained, I think. A lot of people held on to Sarr, who hasn't done much of late recently. He just picked up the 2 points again as well. Souček scoring again. Something we've talked about doing well. And say Antonio opened the scoring. So those that took the punt the week before against Norwich, again getting further reward. And then yesterday, Burnley, another clean sheet for Tom Pope and for the Burnley defenders. It's like one of those ones. I think when you won it, you said he didn't make any goalkeeper transfers, but we all pointed to the Henderson Pope, like the ideal time. And then that was even before the fixtures got announced, and then this single game week came up. Unbelievable spread between the two and making that transfer. But well done to those that did, and deservedly so for holding on to your transfers and not blowing them early. And then today, Southampton beat Bournemouth 2-0. Ings scored and missed a penalty, which we're all kind of lamenting. I think all three of us had Ings as captain. And then Spurs, again, Kane getting the double against Leicester. So 4 goals in the 2 games after the game, that the single game day that people might have taken. I could see, I don't know if people had a lot of transfers, if people brought Kane in for the Everton game and then got rid of him again. I think that might have been a popular move, or people just getting annoyed with him of late.
Transfers not just for Christmas though, Paul.
Yeah. That's a quick roundup of the week's games.
Good stuff. Thank you, Paul. Okay, so Dan, could you give us a bit of a roundup on some of your ownership stats, observations from the past week?
Yeah, so I made sort of notes on the key sort of players each day over the last week, because I don't know if you listen every week, but they'll each morning as you look, that will have the ownership stats, which is a bit annoying because, like I say, I looked at Antonio last Sunday. He was in 5.1 of the top 1,000. That was about the same all week, 5.8, 5.8, 6.7. So before the game on Friday, he was in 7.5 of the top 1,000. And up by Saturday morning, that had gone up to 30%, which is quite a big jump. So, but the unfortunate thing is, you don't know how many teams brought him in, or that was teams sitting outside the top 1,000 that have moved into the top 1,000.
Yeah.
But anyway, now him sitting at 30% ownership, if you haven't got him, he's a big worry at every time he scores now, because he's in almost a third of the top 1,000 teams. So, but that's the main biggest jump this week with Antonio going up after the game on Friday. Again, like I said, we knew he was going to score, but we had no transfers and couldn't bring him in, so it's just a bit guttering. Danny Ings, he started the week in 31.1, another sort of goal man of the match in the week. He was sitting on 41.8% this morning, so I think a fair few would have captained him as well. And like we said, that's so annoying. He got 6 points for today, 12 as captain, but he'd have got the same as Kane, because you think if he'd have scored the second goal, he'd have probably got man of the match, 2 goals. He'd have been looking at 34 points. So, like we said, that's 22 points just from a missed penalty, basically. So annoying. I was surprised that Phil Foden, he was probably the easy move off Soyuncu. I think we talked about it, but he's in 31.6% of the top 1,000 teams. And his last 4 games, he's only scored 6 points.
He's been unlucky though, mate. I know. And I'm going to defend him a little bit, because in the game, not the one just gone, the one where they won 5-0, and he wasn't involved in any of the goals. He had the highest XG in the whole game. He assisted the assister on the first 3 goals, and he missed 2 absolute sitters as well. So I think it was a good pick.
Another day, that's a 20 point.
Exactly, mate. I think it's a good pick. It's just the wrong outcome. I mean,
he's good. Greenwood's in 34% of teams, quite high. I was still surprised Rashford's only in 10.6. Martial, he's in 23%, so he's quite a lot. Sterling's still only in 5.5%, considering his hat-trick last week. Then again, if you've got any transfers, I'd bring him in this week, because I've still got 2 games to play. I still think I'd go for Sterling. That were the main ones, really. So I tracked them all. Most of them sat at the same. Soyuncu's gone down from 80.3. He was now in 29.8. So he's in my team. I've got no transfers. So I'm guessing there's 300 teams or so without a transfer who are just going to leave him in and transfer a striker instead. But everyone else, there was David Silva still only went in. He's still only in 3.4%, so he's not in a lot of the top 1,000. But again, you could jump onto him in midweek, and I think that was it. Pope went up a little bit, from 22 to 27%, but there weren't really. There's not a lot of movement in the rest, mate. To be honest, but I say people are running out of transfers now, so it's no surprise. Yeah. So that's my main points on the ownership this week.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So there are 4 game days left. So what we're going to do now is walk through each game day, each one, and we're going to look at potential captain options and transfer options. Obviously, there's not much kind of transfers left, but for those who have got some transfers left, just give them something to think about. So firstly then, Monday the 20th of July, the fixtures we've got Brighton at home to Newcastle, and Sheffield United at home to Everton. So they're the 2 6:00 games, so we get to see the lineups for those. And then Wolves against a dodgy Crystal Palace at the moment, I think, at 8:15. So Paul, what are your thoughts on Monday night's fixtures? Who would your captaincy be on if you had the pick of anyone?
I no longer own him, but he is still quite highly owned. It'd probably be Jimenez if I had the choice of captain for there.
Okay, and what are the options? Any other options there you can maybe see?
I've got Henderson, Baldock, and Richarlison. And Henderson's, even though the Henderson to Pope switch was kind of lamenting the fact not having any transfers, the Henderson has done well for me in the past. I captained them when he picked up the Man of the Match award when it was the first game back for Sheffield United after the break. So I honestly think he probably is the second best choice based on the games there. I've got Richarlison as well, but Everton seem to have went off the boil a bit recently.
Okay, and what about you down that Monday? Not the most exciting lot, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much exactly the same. If I had Jimenez, I'd have him in, unless his missus has had the baby. That's one to keep an eye out, because I know she's due. But yeah, Jimenez, Palace have been awful, haven't they? I know they lost the last 5 games.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm the same. I've got, well, almost the same. I've got Henderson and Richarlison, and Everton have just been... I'll probably go with Henderson as captain. I was thinking Richarlison, but I think I'll just go for Henderson, because how Everton have been playing, I can't see him scoring. So go for Henderson, hope for a clean sheet, man of the match or something like that. And need to claw some points back from not having Pope. So hopefully Henderson can do that.
Okay. Boris the Blade says Jimenez, and Mark Daniel says Doherty. Lee Williams is on Baldock as no transfers left. In terms of what I think for this one, I think the best captain probably is Jimenez. You know, he's I've got him in FPL, and you know he's probably the best captain of the night, I would say, or maybe Doherty potentially, because the manager has come out recently, haven't he, and said that their whole philosophy, and this is what I'm going to look to take into next season as well, their whole philosophy is not concede and try and win the game kind of on the break, which obviously great in terms of potential for defenders next year. So I think he is a good option. In terms of a really left field pick here, so Newcastle have got 8 injuries, including 5 centre backs. So all their centre backs are out. Also got injuries right across the team. Brighton have been playing okay, and Neil Mopai is 0% owned, as you would imagine, and for good reason up until now. He's 7.5 million, but with all those defensive injuries, I reckon Brighton could give Newcastle a bit of a run around. And I just think, I think we've had a couple of questions around, real differential left field options. I think Mopai, if he starts, you get to see the team sheet as well, right? So I think he could potentially be one who could get a goal or 2 in that game. So I would say, in terms of a left field pick, not a bad shout. George Butler says, Jimmy, best shout. Reece Bloomer asks Baldock or Patricio. Who would you think are the best ball out of Baldock and Patricio?
Flip a coin, I think. They're both clean sheet, possibly.
I'd take the 2 extra points from Patricio, that being the sole reason, I think.
Patricio, and Marius says Henderson. Yeah, not the most exciting of days. The only other one I would potentially say, I think Jota's been a bit unfortunate recently. He doesn't seem to be converting his form into points. He's owned by 5.2% of players. He does tend to get brought off early, which is a bit of a pain. He tends to come off, kind of 60, 70 minutes. But he scored a really nice goal versus Everton. One of his kind of classic, it was a ball over the top, ran through, smashed it in the near post. Look, he was scoring a few goals like that pre-lockdown and last season as well. So again, if Jota's in your team, I don't think he's the worst option as well. Okay, so moving on to Tuesday. Tuesday, the 21st of July, we have 2 games. So we get to see the lineups, thankfully, for Watford and Man City, because obviously that could be anything, right, in terms of team. They're knocked out now of the FA Cup, and they've got that game on the Tuesday. They've also got the final game home to Norwich on the Sunday. They won't have FA Cup the week after, so that kind of relieves a bit of a headache there. But then they do have Champions League. Obviously, after that, they've got that return leg against Real Madrid. And then there's Villa and Arsenal. Now, Arsenal obviously played incredibly well against Man City on Saturday. I suppose it's question mark potentially over Aubameyang, if he's going to play the last 2, obviously now with that FA Cup final. Dan, first, what are your thoughts on this day, on the Tuesday?
I've only got De Bruyne and Sarr, so that's not too good for me. So yeah, if De Bruyne's starting, I'll go for him. God, if he don't start, I'll probably still captain him, to be honest, rather than Sarr. But yeah, if you've got some transfers, you can't argue against Man City, can you? Away to Watford. Or, like someone said in the chat, Aubameyang, he's only in 10% of teams. Yeah, you'd hope he'd start, but obviously you don't see the lineup, so it is a bit of a gamble. But he was good form too at the weekend, so I don't know, really. You just got to, I don't know.
Like
I do like to make sure you.
Right? If it's like,
I like to know that this.
Jesus.
Yeah, if they're starting, it'd be like De Bruyne or Sterling, I think. But that's where you have to sort of react to the lineup if anyone's got any transfers left. But yeah, I'll be on De Bruyne and just hope he starts, because if not, God, I want a captain Sarr against Man City. Like, that would just sum up my sort of last sort of week of fantasy. Terrible.
And what are your thoughts, Paul, on that day?
Any of the attacking five for whoever's playing for City would probably be the best option. Like, I had looked at Aubameyang earlier on as well, and says 10.5% of the top 1,000. If you knew that he was going to play, they play away to Villa and then home to Watford on the last day, so that might be a good use of a transfer, knowing that you're going to get, well, presuming you're going to get the 2 games out of them, where City could completely rotate the first 11.
Yeah, I would say that because we get to see the lineups, David Silva is playing. I still think he's a wonderful option, as he proved last week. All last week, he's also guaranteed to start against Norwich on the final day as well, and I would guess on that day he will definitely get man of the match, no matter what he does. Even if he gets a red card, he'll get man of the match. He likely, I would guess, like get a penalty and stuff as well. If he's on pen, so I think for that Sunday is a great option, which we'll touch on now. But if he does start on that Tuesday, I think it's a good opportunity to get 2 potentially really profitable games off Silva. He jumped on last week, you'd be laughing, but as we know, we get to see the lineups. Depends on your position. Then maybe if you're defending a mini league, maybe De Bruyne. If you're chasing, Sterling. What would you say, Dan? 5%.
Yeah,
I think Mahrez is still quite low as well.
Yeah, 11 Mahrez.
Jesus is low. Take your pick, really.
9.8, I think.
Yeah,
so they're all really low. And Foden was a bit higher, wasn't he? 23% or something like that. I think only Foden, which was
he was
quite surprising.
31 Foden.
Okay. Pompey Lad 96 Pap. Traore due some points, but not a guaranteed start. Annoyingly, yeah, that is. He seems to have this problem with his shoulder, don't he, all the time? And I think as well he started right wing back one of the last games as well, didn't he? He can't seem to just nail that place in the front three. So, but he is, he's very, very cheap. We'd expect a hike for him next year. Good evening, Joe Findlay Badder. And Ian says Watford have sacked Pearson. Saw that mad decision. Are they expecting a bounce? I don't know how you can expect a bounce when your next game is against Man City. I mean, I'm not really sure. Any thoughts on Watford at all, guys? On kind of what to expect? I just
they'd be lucky not to go down. I think with them 2 games, Man City and Arsenal, they're not getting any points, are they? So that's a big, they're in trouble.
It all depends if Bournemouth or Villa can grab the initiative, really, innit? But I think that Watford have got a better goal difference than them. So I think if they lose the 2, I still think Bournemouth and Villa need to get a win and a draw. So I think
Bournemouth are playing today, so they've only got the 1 game against.
They've only got the 1. You're right. Yeah. Apologies. I guess it's only Villa, really. I think it's like a 5 or 6 goal swing. So unless Man City obviously put Watford to the sword for 6 or 7, so you would probably guess that actually thinking about that, Watford would probably just camp, wouldn't they? Because they just want to keep the goal, the kind of the goal difference down to the 2 or 3 rather than the 5 or 6. That's interesting thought there. Actually interesting, mentality they might have. Joe Finley Badder, we will get pumped by City, Pearson or no Pearson. Yeah, I think, was it 6-0 in the FA Cup final last year, wasn't it? They tend to get pumped, but like we say, with that goal difference now, they may just stick 10 men behind the ball and just go for a 1 or 2-0 loss. We'll see. Pompey Lad 96, Sar's biggest point haul against Liverpool, decent pace on the break. Good shout. And Mark Daniels, if David Silva plays, I would prefer any other City player than KDB. His stats when Silva plays are not great. That is an interesting point there. I think he tends to sit a bit deeper when David Silva plays, so keep your eye on the lineup. And Aubameyang we mentioned, didn't we there? So 10.5%, and obviously if Aubameyang, he's a potential good option for the 2 games, potentially even a captain option on the Sunday as well, if you're that way inclined. Wednesday the 22nd of July, we get to see the lineups for Man United and West Ham at 6 o'clock. Anthony Martial was rested earlier, even though he came on at half time or before, wasn't it, I think, for an injury. And then Liverpool-Chelsea at 8:15. Chelsea putting up a really good performance today, so maybe that Liverpool game not as attractive as it was. Paul, what are your thoughts on those two games?
Bruno's the safe choice for the Man United West Ham game. However, Martial, I've been captaining Martial at home games on FPL recently, and I don't know. Like, obviously, there's no crowds, so it's a bit different. It's a bit different, but I don't know if it's more coincidence or not. But he seems to be getting a lot of big chances at home. He's playing in the middle now, and he's probably on as good a form as he's been for Man United. So, I definitely wouldn't push anyone away from going Martial captain. I think him and Bruno's the two standout options based on what you mentioned about Liverpool do seem to be on their holidays a bit anyway now. So one of those two Man United players. And if you believe the rotation of the penalties, Rashford's due the next Man United penalty, and they seem to be consistently getting penalties as well. So any of those three Man United options could all be good shouts.
And how about you, Dan? What are your thoughts on the Wednesday game?
Yeah, same again. If I had Martial or transfer, I'd be bringing him in if he starts. I've got Rashford and Greenwood and Fernandes. So I'll probably captain Rashford and say, hope he's on for the pen. He's just a bit something different because he's not in a lot of teams. Like, my team's sinking a bit, so I need something. So yeah, if Rashford could grab a couple of goals, that'd be great. Won't be touching Liverpool. They've pissed me off the last couple of games, especially like Van Dijk when I needed him as captain, and he, it's just annoying when it switched off against Arsenal, and annoying. So yeah, it'll be Rashford captain for me. But yeah, if I had a choice, I'd go Martial.
The thing with Man United as well is they're going to have to play their strongest team in both games, and we saw when Ole rested a lot of players today that they've got a strong 11 and their bench isn't particularly great. So you can imagine the strongest team with Greenwood, with Martial, Rashford and Bruno playing as the front four, playing both the games as well. So if you did have a transfer left and you didn't have Martial or Rashford, even if you weren't going to captain them, I still think that would be a good shout and bringing one of them in on Wednesday. And then their last game's away to Leicester. No Soyuncu there as well. So
yeah, I agree. I've written down Martial. If I had him, I think he looked really sharp. That goal he scored in the last game week, I can't think who scored against it now, but where he kind of cut in for the left hand side, smashed in the top corner of his right foot. That's just the finish of someone with incredible confidence. He was on the bench earlier as well, so he's rested. Came on, won the penalty. He's just always involved in the box. He's a really, really good player. Sorry, mate. I
still think if you've somehow still got 2 or 3 transfers left and don't really know what to do with them, probably Sudge, playing at FPL, he's probably still got about 8 transfers. I'd load up on Manchester United on Wednesday because it's the sort of last chance you've got to get 2 games out of someone. Do you know what I mean? So it's an extra game. So if you have got some transfers, bring in Martial and Rashford and just load up and hope for a 4 or 5-0.
Yep, I think that's a really good shout. Boris the Blade, if Watford lose both, Bournemouth win at Everton, then Bournemouth would be above Watford. Goal difference is only 3 worse. Yeah, so it is. Yeah, that's fair. Thank you, Boris, for that. Pompey lad's a bit harsh. Pompey lad. Samata and Pookie still banging in the goals with a winky face. What's that all about? Not happy with that. I owe Dan a pint off the back of that. So
yes,
but thank you.
What was it, Dan? What was it you called it? A Mark Edworthy bet? Is that it?
Yeah, that's just. Yeah, I should have pulled you up when I must have not been really concentrating when you was mentioning it, but afterwards I think I can't believe he said that on air.
No, you've got it. There's no point just saying the same thing as everyone else, if you've got the things in heads. Look at Mopai now, right? No one's mentioned Mopai all season. Watch. He's gonna bang in tomorrow, 34-pointer tomorrow.
He could get a goal. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that one, but not some. Yeah, we'll forget about that anyway.
Not Samata.
Nah, you owe me a pint.
I do owe you a pint. Marius, Martial looks good for next season with Bruno as a feeder for the right price. Absolutely, we got a question on that actually after around kind of players who we like the look of for next season. Completely agree, Marius. And probably right age to perform better. Yeah, that was one of my points as well. Absolutely. Ian, Man United should be going for goals on Wednesday. Puts them in a better position versus Leicester. I agree, though. I would say that West Ham been playing very well recently, but they have been conceding. But I don't think it's going to be, a walkover. I can see goals in it. I can see goals on both sides. Kind of like a 3-1 maybe, or a 3-2 potentially, because West Ham have been playing well and scoring well. And Antonio just looks like a reborn man, doesn't he? Looks incredible.
Is his contract up or something? What's up with him?
I'm not really sure, but I can't think of another player. Maybe this is one. Maybe someone in the chat can think of any other player, right, that has transformed from a right back to a centre forward, but he also plays on the left wing as well. I've never known anyone go from right back to left wing. That is like pretty.
I'm sure Callum Patterson's done it.
Yeah.
Callum Patterson. All right. Oh, was that the Cardiff?
Yeah, he used to play for Hearts.
Oh, did he really?
Hearts up here, yeah.
All right.
He's from the same town as me. 20,000 people.
Really? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Mario says, guys, don't you think midfielders are underperforming this season? I'm not sure they're underperforming. I just think a lot of them are misclassified. I think that they seem to be putting midfielders this season. Anyone who plays on the flanks, they seem to have put as strikers. I just think that the midfield pool itself has shrunk a lot. What are your thoughts on that, Dan? Do you think?
Yeah, I was fuming when they moved Sterling and Mane to strikers. Yes, I know they get goals, but that just to me made De Bruyne look the only option. Because remember Fernandes wasn't on the scene. So when you got De Bruyne, and then there's sort of no one else really. Like even if you went through Price, I know Eriksen left or whatever, and Pogba was injured. But De Bruyne was the most expensive. Then Eriksen, Pogba, Bernardo Silva, David Silva, Dele Alli, Zaha, all over 10 million. Richarlison, you're thinking really they weren't very good value for money for me apart from De Bruyne. So I was, at the start of the season, sort of most of the season, I weren't really. If I could have played with one midfielder, I would have done. But it's only now Fernandes is on the scene. At least you've got 2 picks for next season, and depends how they price people up for that are there at the minute. But
Hazard leaving added to that as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think we have had had players like Sarr, Grealish, Mount. We've had a few, but the actual pool you can choose from, is maybe 8 or 10 players. If you think of the strikers you could choose from, you could probably name quite quickly 20 or 25 strikers you would really want in your team on Sky. I just think that's the only part of the game they maybe need to kind of look at, because it does restrict, and it does mean that a lot of the teams are very similar then, I think, because you can only have this small pool of midfielders. Anyway, we're going off on a tangent. Ian Parron says West Ham will still be hungover potentially. Yeah. Lee Williams needs changing back, and Glenn Murray, people like Jota or Richarlison should be strikers then. So yeah, it's just consistency really, But and Ian says midfield has been the enabling position. I think we've been a bit spoiled with a few cheaper options, like you say, like Sarr and maybe Mount, and I guess have been cheap. Adama was he 6.2 or whatever he was, or we've had some really cheap options there. Okay, so moving on to Sunday. What a raft of games. We've got Arsenal v Watford at 4:00, Burnley v Brighton, Chelsea versus Wolves, Crystal Palace versus Spurs, Everton versus Bournemouth, Leicester versus Man United, Man City versus Norwich, Newcastle versus Liverpool, Southampton versus Sheffield United, and West Ham versus Villa. So if you could have any pick on the game, any pick of the game, Paul, who would your captain be on this day? It is an incredibly tough one. And we get to see the lineups for all of them, I think, is obviously important to note.
Yeah, I think David Silva, if he starts for Man City at home to Norwich, which we think he will. I think a nice differential pick of captaincy might be Salah. You'd mentioned about Newcastle's defensive issues just now. And I know that predominantly he was doing well at home this season, not so well away, but he got that double against Brighton. where it's been predominantly a hard place to go this season. So, Salah might, I know he's still owned by over 40%, so he might be a nice differential captain.
And what about you, Dan? Who would your captain be on the final day?
God.
If you could pick.
Pick anyone.
Anyone from any of those games.
God. What a miracle, and I want Aguero to be fit against Norwich. But, could be... I think it's going to be someone random, probably be like Antonio again, get a brace against Villa or something. I don't know. I still think City or Sterling or... we said David Silva, didn't we? Yeah, I don't know. Even like we mentioned before, Aubameyang could get a goal or two against Watford. I think that is such a hard day. That is all I know is Burnley will keep a clean sheet. Antonio will score, and I wouldn't put it past like Vardy might get one, or United will win, and Kane and Son will probably score. But for one I can't really pick one standout one. Really, there's. I say most of them strikers that have just seemed to have been informed the last 3 or 4 weeks. I'd want them in your team.
Yeah, anyone who's brought in all these picks, we talked about Antonio, Kane, David Silva. They've all got amazing fixtures on that final day. I think I can't have passed David Silva from a Sky view, but also a nostalgia view. It could potentially be his last game in the Premier League, and I just mean what he's played. He's been. Is this his 10th or 11th season that he signed in? I want to say 2011 or something. Like his 9th or 10th season. Absolutely unbelievable. And I just think they'll be giving him everything. He'll be taking the free kicks. I think he'll take penalties.
If I could get a bet on him getting man of the match, he's already got man of the match. You know it, don't you? Like
100%.
I'd happily put a few £100 on him being man of the match, like because the reporters and stuff. Like he is man of the match. So I know it's only 3 points, but he is going to be man of the match. So
and I think my second pick would probably be. I still want to see how Palace perform tomorrow night against Wolves, but I think Kane against Palace is probably a decent shout as well. If you hold Kane, and then there's obviously ones that we've already mentioned. Jesus playing up front against Norwich. I mean, you can't fail to score a couple of goals there, can he? So I think I think it depends on mini league stuff. If you're chasing or not, or whatever else. So if you know in your mini leagues who your rivals have got, etc. But David Silva for me is a shoe-in for that day. He's guaranteed. I would guess like a 10, 12, 15 pointer. So like a 24, 30 pointer as captaincy personally. If not more. And but yeah, I think Silva on that one. Aaron says Silva definitely tier 2 shots. Absolutely, I think you're right there. Ian Parrin, Salah currently 4 goals behind Vardy. Could be interesting if he scores midweek. Just don't think Liverpool are at the races. They just haven't got that intensity, have they? But he'll be gagging for it. He's been missing a few chances as well. He's had a couple of headers the last 2 games, point blank headers from like 6 yards out, which he's missed and things. Yeah. Okay, so. Moving on then to some questions. We've had quite a few questions. We probably actually answered a few of them, so we'll just work through them. Azuri Fox, who obviously had a really good season last season in Sky. I think he was top for quite a lot of it. Who's that 1 or 2 players that aren't highly owned but can actually earn you great points in these remaining matches? So I think we've answered that. I go for Mopai. We've had some other shouts off the guys as well. But yeah, I think we've answered that one. Glenroy asks, is Salah an underrated captain option on Liverpool's final 2 games? There is no chance to give him the golden boot. I just personally think that they just look out of sorts. Dan, any thoughts on Salah? Do you think he's an underrated captain option?
Just the way they lost to Arsenal. I can't see a lot of people going for him. Really, he's still in 30% of the top 1,000 teams. Whether that's just people ain't got any transfers, but not been doing it for me. But that's not to say you can't get a couple of goals on the last day. You just never know. They might be up for that game. But yeah, maybe he is. Yeah.
Well, against Newcastle, who we just mentioned, they've got that decimated defence. So potentially on that final day, not too keen on against Chelsea personally. Paul, any thoughts on Salah?
Yeah, I think he'll be a different. I don't think many people will go for him on captain, say on the last day. So a striker of that quality, you mentioned before about Kane being a differential, Salah being as a differential. Definitely, whether he's guaranteed or whether we think he'll be the top scorer is possibly a different question, though.
Okay, we've answered Robert Hunt's question: who are the best players captain on the final day? I think we're probably unanimous on David Silva, then chuck in, Kane, Jesus, Aubameyang, potentially. Question from at Planet Sky, Ian Parrin: who is the best captain choice for tomorrow? Any position or budget? So I think the guys were on Jimenez maybe as the best option. I think he probably is the best option. Check in Malpai. And Brownie has asked a question. So Brownie at Sky FF about next season with Leeds already crowned champions, including Leeds, which other teams' players from the championship, if promoted, are on your radar. I think what we'll probably do, we'll need to do a bit of analysis and planning on this. Kind of initial thoughts. Some of the Leeds fullback potentially look good, but obviously, we'll do some analysis in pre-season. We will definitely have a couple of podcasts where we talk about the new ones. Tim Barry, is Kane back on our radars for next season? Paul, is Kane on your radar for next season based on the last few performances?
Is he on my radar? Maybe. I guess what we don't know about next season so far is when the overhaul is going to land. So if we're going to get 4 weeks in or not, and then it's all about the fixtures and not trying to use a transfer. So if the fixtures are good, or if Spurs are needed for a single game day, I've always preferred owning Kane over owning Son or any differential like that when I've needed a Spurs captain. So definitely if that's the case, but he wouldn't be the first name on my team sheet, I don't think.
Dan, Kane?
Same again. It depends on the fixtures. If I need him as a captain, he has done so well for me in the past. But then I can't forget, like the game. Even I can't remember what game it was, but he basically played as a defender, didn't he, or DM? Right, he was making blocks and stuff like that. And you think, no, Kane's done, he's finished, and then he does what he does today, and you're like, unbelievable. I think I'd said, oh yeah, have him for, I forget what game it was now. Whatever game I said for, Everton, he didn't do anything, and he sort of, don't know what I was really expected to say. Then he gets I was just thinking, please don't score a hat-trick. But and he's in so many teams. He's in like 30% of teams or whatever. So he's in a lot of teams, 26.5 today. So there's a lot of teams that did well today, but I just don't know. I had thought, no, never again. But if he's getting braces, then yeah, he needs to be considered.
I think with Kane, for me, he's a very kind of he's turned into a bit of a streaky player. You can tell when he's on form because he makes those lung bursting runs from midfield into attack, and when he's not doing that, he's probably not in form. So the thing with Kane, which I think he holds over most other strikers in the league, is he always plays 90. He always plays 90 every single game, regardless. So he's always on the pitch at the end, when the game is stretched and all this kind of stuff, and he's on penalties, and he's an excellent finisher. So but I agree. I think it definitely depends on the fixtures, right? So if Spurs' first 3 games, they have a single game day and they're up against Bournemouth, promoted team and Palace, for example, be a lot more tempted to have him rather, if he's every day's a Saturday and they're playing against the harder team. So I think it is pretty dependent.
Another thing for me would be if you can identify an enabler right at the very start. So because most teams are going to go in with Bruno, with Van Dijk, with KDB. So that's already they're going to be
right
11, 12 million plus. And then Kane's going to be still at the top end based on how many goals he scored this season in his record. So affording another top striker when we have limited information at the start of the season would be, can we find the Dan Burn early doors?
Lamptey, I'm calling it now. Lamptey. I mentioned him a few weeks ago. He looks really good. He reminds me of Wan-Bissaka a few years ago when he burst on the scene. Just catch me in the chat. Pompey lad, any news on the fantasy meter? Not yet. We haven't thought about it yet. Obviously, the as the country unlocks. And if you haven't noticed, we're all from different parts of the UK as well. So Dan's in Norwich, in the southeast of England. I'm in Wales, and Paul's up in Scotland. So we need to unlock a country, and then we will definitely get something sorted for that. Mark Daniel said, if Brentford come up, then side Benrahma is one to watch. Interesting. Thank you for that, Mark. And Joe Finney about it. If Ings would have scored that pen today, he would have matched Kane's points. Knockout cup opponent had Kane, and I had Ings. That's really unlucky, Joe. You must have got really far. You must be like the quarterfinals or semi-finals there. So that is incredibly unlucky. And Mario says Kane and Aguero can always score 3 or 4 a game, or Antonio. Absolutely. And Reece says Calvin Phillips from Leeds on my radar. Yes, so we will definitely, we will definitely have a look into that start of the season. Question from Luke Wilson at FPL_equation. With both Nathan and Tim Barry doing so well, so believe they're both in the top 100 in the leaderboard, is there a better Sky FF family? The only pro ones I can think of are the Byrams, who have been my nemesis for many years across all fantasy formats. I think they are father and son as well. Any other families, guys? Sky FF families?
Carl Weeks' wife's team always used to do well, but I don't know if that was just him administering it or not.
Okay. I noticed last year he had Maurice Weeks as well.
That's his real name.
Oh, is it really?
Maurice.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there we go. So we got the Weeks as well.
Byrams are good. I like them, but both Adam. Spoke in the past to Adam and Mick. Both sound as a pound, good as gold. They've cost me so much money, thousands we're talking about. I could have probably gone part time if it weren't for them. So I think you should retire, Mick. Retire, yeah. Give it a rest. Let some of us else win some more.
Question from Glenroy. Do you reckon there will be an upsurge in the amount of people playing next season with more FPL players coming over? If so, maybe bigger prize money. So I think there was about between 500,000 and 550,000 entrants this year. I'm not sure what that kind of trend is year on year. I think it was up actually on the previous year.
I think it's been up.
Yeah, but all I would say to everyone, everyone on here is promote Sky. Let's get more people playing. Let's get it as high as it was in its heyday a few years ago. FPL is obviously massively on the climb. They're seeing a kind of million extra players every year. TFF is on the decline, sadly, as is Sun, the Dream Team, and those games are a limited number of entries now, which is probably causing a bit of decline, lowering the prize money every year. Let's get Sky back up there. Get on.
You can see Sky's getting there because there's more sort of Twitter accounts, isn't there? Until I see a Sky FF Armadillo, Sky FFF Aardvark. Do you know what I mean? We're getting there. Do you know what I mean? It's like you see all these FPL, like every animal under the sun. But we're getting there. We're getting there with Sky. Do you know what I mean? We're like the cool sort of program you watch on BBC Two compared to like FPL's like Mrs. Brown's Boys, whereas we're actually something funny on Channel 2. Do you know what I mean? But we're getting there. But I said all the cool people play Sky. I can understand if you live abroad and you play FPL because there's nothing in your country. But if you're in the UK, you really should be playing Sky as your like number one priority in FPL.
And you've actually got a chance of winning some really good money as well, haven't you, on Sky?
That's it. Don't tell Will I said that, he'll go mad.
Absolutely. Mark Daniel, I've started to recruit my FPL boys from work. Good work, Mark. Get them all playing Sky.
As long as they're not too good, don't, Mark. If they're really good, don't get them in.
Question from Adam Robertson at FPL Baby. Would Aubameyang be a good transfer in this Tuesday, or is a City player better? Or both? 2 left. No idea about last day rotation. I want to save him, but I don't know. And what are your previous experiences of last day starts and benchings? So, would Aubameyang be a good transfer in this Tuesday first? Dan, what are your thoughts on that for a transfer? So Arsenal got a nice 2 games, haven't they, to finish?
Yeah, if depends what he's got. Like I say, if De Bruyne doesn't start for whatever reason, or he's just not really feeling it. But Arsenal play 2 games, so yeah, you might as well bring in an Arsenal player. You'd think Aubameyang, even if he doesn't start, he'll come on. But yeah, I'd do maybe one in the week, like I said, because Manchester United, Man City, Arsenal, they'll all play twice. So go for one of them and save one for the last day if you want. It's pretty hard to say, really.
Paul, any thoughts on Aubameyang and a City player, or both, going into Tuesday and Wednesday?
I would only use one on there, and I'd use one for the Man United attacker, presuming he doesn't have a front line of like Martial, Greenwood, and Rashford. And if you've got KDB and KDB starts against Watford, I guess trying to get second guess what Pep would do in the second game's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? We've all been burnt there before, but if Silva doesn't play, you expect him to play the last game. I don't know how many City assets are going to play too. But yeah, I'd use one for what you need on that game day, and then one on the Man United attacker. If it was me, knowing they'll play two.
Yeah, I think if Arsenal hadn't have won their game yesterday, I would have thought Aubameyang would be a good shout, but he may rest him for the FA Cup final. Now you're not sure, so I would. And Nketiah's back from suspension, I believe, midweek too, so it gives Arsenal more options. So I do think Aubameyang is potentially a good option, but I think there's more risk with him than there is, as we mentioned, Martial, Rashford, Sterling, Jesus, all these kind of players. So hopefully that answers that question. And what's your previous experience of last day start and benching? So I think generally, from my experience, I don't think there's many shocks normally, is there? I think everyone just tends to play their normal team. Every team will have had a bit of a rest as well. So the last game is on the Wednesday, so they get 4 days. After that, like I say, the only concern tends to be Arsenal and Chelsea, maybe for the FA Cup. Paul, anything to add on that from the final day?
Well, I doubt Chelsea will be resting anyone because they'll be fighting for fourth.
They will be for
yeah. I have noticed, well, in the past, there have been a lot of teams that have got nothing to play for, and you see a lot of youth getting played. I remember Ferguson used to do it with Man United a lot. However, we've spoken, like, we've all mentioned Man United so far, and we know that them and Chelsea will both be going for fourth place. So the expectation is that those two teams won't be resting any. Man United players will be well owned, but for Liverpool, etc., I've no idea. He could play the kids.
And yourself, Dan, any thoughts on what might happen on the final day in terms of lineups?
No idea. I can't offer anything more than Paul said. Really, you think Chelsea would, they've got to get the win. Arsenal might be the only one who do rotate a bit, but I think everyone else, up there, the players who you're going to have in your team, they're playing for something. So I can't see anyone really doing a lot of rotation and playing the kids and stuff. So I think it'll be pretty much as it is.
Cool. So we've had a question off Bill Speck. So thoughts on if the game changes? Volumes of transfers with a late start, change of window, lack of a break, keeping of the 5-sub rule, that season may be front-loaded in case of a repeat. Let's face it, the Prem and FA have loads to decide before we know what FF could look like. So Dan did exclusively reveal a few weeks back, which I gave him a bit of a hard time for in all fairness, but he did exclusively reveal that Sky FF have said that they're not going to be changing any of the rules for next season. Dan, was that right? Does that still ring true?
Yeah, so it'll still be the same. They'll pencil in 2 overhauls, 40 transfers. There'll be no change to, pass and tackle bonus. Look, there'll be everything's going to stay the same. Obviously, when they put in the overhauls, that has all got to be decided and sort of thing. But basically, the game's going to stay the same because there's not going to be as much time with what's happened to do changes this year. So anything would be for next season. I think they had a couple of little things they were going to do, but for the latest intel I got was everything's going to stay the same. So at least when you're thinking about next season, you can be, it's not. Before they'd looked at lowering, or they did lower the shots bonus tiers and stuff like that. So and then you'd look at the strikers then in more detail, who was just missing out on the bonus points. But everything's going to be pretty much the same. So that's the latest I've had. But they might change their mind, but I can't see it. I think it will be the same.
I take your point, Phil, on your point about obviously the plans are that the season's going to start a month later. Obviously they've moved the Euros to next summer as well, so they can't just kind of play on until the end of June. So it's going to be interesting. They're going to have a bit of congestion somewhere. And as you say, in case there is a repeat of the pandemic, they may decide to front load, or they may decide to spread out. They may decide to scrap the FA Cup for a season. We really don't know yet. But I would think all I would say to that is, our job on this podcast is to keep everyone informed with what's going on, what our thoughts are, how we adapt, get everyone's input and interaction, and between us we generally come up with the right way to approach it. There's a lot of experience within this, not just on the podcast here, but with everyone in the chat as well. So I think we just have to adapt, as we have done in the last 5 or 6 weeks. And Reese Sky FF, thoughts on what you would change looking ahead to the new season. So we know that nothing is going to change. There was a comment in the chat actually. Dan Perry, do you reckon they should scrap the man of the match bonus next year? Some calls this year have still been dodgy. Still remember the Orba versus Pepe one earlier this season. So we had a chat about this pre-lockdown, I think, guys. We had a kind of chat about what it would change. I think we kind of decided with man of the match was, what we don't want is all the games to just morph into the same game. Like each game has got its kind of its intricacies and its characteristics. So even though it is sometimes a bit dodgy, I think we just said, as long as it's consistent, as long as they always go with whoever is said on telly or whatever else. But in terms of any changes, I know there's not gonna be any. Dan, if there was to be a change to the game, what change would you make if you had the reins?
I was never really a fan of the overhaul, to be honest. I preferred it without that, because especially the second overhaul, I think it sort of does kind of make your team sort of go into the same at the end, and it does help out people who are used to a lot of transfers. So I'd be quite up for scrapping the overhaul. The man of the match, I know it's annoying, but that used to be 5 points for man of the match, so they took it down to 3 to sort of take out that bit of annoyance with it. I do like having a man of the match. The more points you get, the better, and stuff like that. But it is annoying when it does. I remember when that I can't remember what man of the match was at Salah, and everyone in the whole world basically said Fabinho was man of the match, and then they gave to Salah, and you're like, what? Like, he was never man of the match. I don't know. It gets people talking and stuff, don't they? So but from their point of view, it's not done maliciously or with any intent. As they don't look at it and think, he's got thingy, so we'll give it to Salah. It's just a journalist just doing it. So it's not a lot of conspiracy or anything. It is annoying sometimes, but I can take it on the chin. So I'm quite happy to keep it.
Paul, is there anything you would change if there was like one thing you could change about the game?
For me personally, I used to like the one captain swap per game week. And then if you wanted captains for the other games, you had to use transfers to transfer the person that your captaincy was on. But I can understand why they would never move back to that, because although, like you mentioned, the intricacies of the games, like we enjoy the daily captains on Sky, but perhaps that's the maximum amount of time that people would want to spend planning, whereas it might be a bit overkill for people. I enjoy the extra element, but I can understand why people might not.
It's easy, it's easy to forget that, there may be 1,000 or 2, absolute hardcore players who live and breathe it all, but they are trying to cater for 500,000 people to join in and have fun as well. Question from Daniel Radcliffe: is Jimenez's missus even pregnant, or is it one big smoke screen? Dan, have you got the answer to that? Is she pregnant? No. He took him out.
Yeah, she's pregnant. I've seen it. Is that? It's not Harry Potter, is it?
That's what I was thinking.
It is Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah.
All the celebs listen.
He took him out 2 weeks ago, thinking he wouldn't be playing soon. I am in need of her to go into labour soon.
Glenn Roy says she's due on Sunday.
There we go. She's due on Sunday.
He might be out last game of the season.
Chris Port 72. I'd like to have 2 questions. What is the benefit of having 2 teams rather than one? Paul, are you able to answer that?
You got 2 chances of winning it instead of 1. You half the odds.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing against FPL. So what players tend to do is not normally have 2 completely different teams, is it? They may have the core the same, but then if you've got a toss up between, I don't know, maybe Son or Kane. You may put Son in one, Kane or the other, and just two different kinds of strategies. But it's very different from FPL, because FPL you play one team, you play for overall ranking to win your mini leagues. The big difference with Sky is you can actually win the Sky game. As obviously Dan has done, Paul has come fourth. A lot of guys in the chat now, and on our WhatsApp groups have had top 10 finishes in the top 10 at the moment. The chance of winning the whole game, which is the main reason. And how many cash mini leagues do you guys enter? How much money do you spend? Dan, are you willing to divulge how much money you spend? Bear in mind your wife won't be listening to this.
She might be. She might be. No, if you could stick in 50, well, I think 70 quid, you can enter all the Sky leagues. I'll just do that, really. That's enough. Do you know what I mean? There's enough money if you win them Sky leagues and you would win the main thing overall. There's enough money in there to, probably top up to 90 or 100k. I know when Jason won, he won all them Sky leagues, just in 4 leagues, and I think he was probably just over 100k or something like that. So yeah, just do the Sky Cash leagues. Do you know what I mean? I've entered some leagues. Do you know what I mean? And I've entered for a tenner, and there's 3 people in that league. You think, well, is it worth it? Do you know what I mean? Then you'll get 50% of 30 quid or something. You think, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? But no, I'd just do them Sky ones, really.
It ends at the
I could do if the guy's saying about having 2 teams. Yeah, just even if you just pick the 2 identical teams, but just have a different captain each day. Whereas like today, do I have Ings? Do I have Kane? Or one in each. And just my second team is doing a lot better than my actual A team. So it's good to have 2 teams because one of them's bound to do half decent. So
with the overhaul as well, you can take a punt on a block defence. Say they kept 3 clean sheets out of 4, then take it from there. Do your overhaul and straighten the team out. And if not, just kill it. So you're only playing the one team.
Good shout there. It's in terms of cash leagues. Enter the cash leagues. The kind of Sky wins, and if you've got a works league where I think I think most of us have got work leagues that people don't really take it seriously. It could be worth an easy 100 quid or whatever else, but yeah, don't go that mad on it. And final couple of questions. Interesting one. This is from Tevzi. Who's got the best chance of winning a mini league? So 104 points, but 0 transfers with no Man United players, or second place with 5 transfers left with Fernandes, Martial, and Rashford. What a question. Paul,
I'll take the 104.
You take the 104 with no transfers and no Man United players.
Yeah.
Paul, do you think that other team with 5 transfers left and it's already got Fernandes, Martial, and Rashford and it's got a chance?
I think it's got a chance. I think I'm with Dan. I prefer to have the points in the bag. If you're gonna start punting on the transfers, you're probably going to bring in the Man United players that are already been picked. If I was gambling, I would maybe do something like 3 Man United defenders against West Ham, or something like that. Yeah. I don't know. That's not the question, but no, I think the 104 points has a small advantage, I would say.
So I'm a gambler, so I go the other way, and I would say to bring in you've already got Fernandes, Martial, and Rashford, and 5 transfers. I would say have those 3. Bring in Jesus, Sterling, and David Silva. You've already that's an incredible 6 players there. A few captain options. I reckon that'll drag it back. Depends if you're a gambler or not. And final question off Paul at Sky Player in FPL. Which players are you most excited about for next season? Excluding the obvious ones. So obviously we always mention Bruno, De Bruyne, Van Dijk, people like that. Is there anyone else at the moment which you're kind of looking at and thinking, I think he's a good option for early next year? Paul, I'll come to you first.
Nick Pope.
Nick Pope. Exciting Nick Pope. How about you, Dan? Anyone?
Depends how much they price Foden at. He'll be one I'll look at. If he's cheap enough, if they whack him up something silly, then maybe not. But no, not really. Oh, so when we know what 3 teams are coming up, we'll then have a look at them, see if there's anyone in there really. But just be the obvious people, really. Like Fernandes you're going to want and have, and De Bruyne, and sort of just the general ones that that we all know. Just having the right ones in at the right time and having the right captain. So I don't think you need to go too far from the obvious picks.
The first thing I tend to do is look under 5 million and see if there's anybody that I think will play.
Yeah. Good show. So the question was, which players are you most excited about? So I'll try and give a couple of answers, because we've had Nick Pope and anyone under 5 million.
Oh, you said? Oh, sorry. I thought you said who. Apologies, I misheard you.
It's all right. Which players are you most excited about for next season?
All right, not Nick Pope then.
Nick Pope. So I think excitement-wise, I think it's brilliant that Spurs, Chelsea, and Arsenal are all seem to be playing well. I think they'll do well, or do better next season to challenge Man City and Liverpool potentially. I think Chelsea, obviously, Ziyech is joining. He's a wonderful player. He could transfer then, as is Werner. Pulisic, I think though, from that team, I think could benefit maybe the most. He's quite expensive this year. He's 10.1, but I think that he may see a bit of a drop next year. If he's under 10 million, I think Pulisic could be a really good shout. Obvious ones for Spurs, but I also think like Elso as well. I think I mentioned him before. Player I've watched a lot, sits in the middle, should be good for maybe passing bonus against the smaller teams, tackle bonus. Look very creative, and skill. Lot of skills, assist potential. He's still young as well, so I think like Elso could be quite exciting. I've liked what I've seen so far of Nketiah at Arsenal. I don't expect him maybe to start every game, but obviously we'll see in the summer what happens with Aubameyang and Lacazette. He could be really, really cheap. But also, if Arsenal keep playing the kind of way they seem to found a system which works, and Nketiah, quite excited about. Obviously, Man United. I think Martial, this is what we mentioned earlier in the chat, Martial, I think, is going to have a proper breakout season next year. He looks like a solid number 9. Doesn't score many with his head, I think, is the only thing, but he doesn't really need to. He looks really good. And I think Sheffield United and Wolves defence, I know the Sheffield United one is fairly obvious, but I think we could see some bargains in Sheffield United and Wolves defence still. They both play with a not to lose mentality and try and score to kind of win their games instead of just going to try and win the game. So I think there'll still be a lot of value there. Players like Baldock, who's basically playing in midfield at the moment, doesn't he? He's not a right back playing in midfield. I think Doherty and players like that. So I think there could be some good value there.
Do you want me to do top 10, mate?
Yes. Should we go to the leaderboard? So I was just in the chat, but should we go to the leaderboard?
Yeah. So this time next week, one of these guys, I think it would be one of these. It'll be 50k richer.
At least. Depends if they've entered the other leagues, I suppose, yeah.
So remember us here at Fantasy Football Hub, crate a beer. We'll send addresses. So Liam's top now, 3189. He's 19 points ahead of Derek. Second in 3170. Gavin third, 3162. He's another 8 points behind him. Then it's really tight. Lee is a point behind, 3161. Dave's a point behind, 3160. Aaron is 5 behind, 3155. And then Martin, 3144. He's 11 points behind. Now, Liam, on Monday morning, was 6th. So he's had a really good week. So he was 42 points behind the leader on Monday morning. He's now 19 ahead. So 151 points this week. I've done sort of a table each day. So on the Chelsea-Norwich game, I won't give too much, but he got 24 points. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying who, but Giroud scored 12 points. He could have him as captain. 4 of the top 7 got 0 points. So you're presuming they're out of transfers. We're seeing the transfer stats for the top 10 was pretty low, wasn't it? 0.8. So that's been a remarkable week. 151 points. Derek has dropped down to second. He's only got 90 points this week. Gavin is third. He was 8th Monday morning, so he's done well. 137 points. Lee, in our chat, 120 points. He's gone up a place to 4th. Dane, pretty all right week, 117. Aaron's only got 102, so that's why he has dropped down from 2nd. And then Martin, he's had a good week. He was 9th and he's jumped up as well with 123 points. So it is mad to think that is so close. I know Liam's got a 19-point gap, but something like a Kane get a brace again, or stuff like that. That's all it takes. But especially them guys that are only a point and 5 points between them are so tight. God, I'd hate to be up there. Like, that's going to be a nail-biting week for these guys. Not going to get a lot of sleep and or think about a lot else. But just best of luck to them. And do you know what I mean? Do your own moves and all the best.
Lee's top of the fantasy £20 game as well. So
yes,
the winner of that gets over $7,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. So they've that's their week. So getting closer, a week to go. Nail biting stuff.
Really well done, everyone. What an amazing season! What an amazing race! It's been really exciting to watch. It's the first thing I do now. I don't even look at my own team and points.
Yeah, same.
It's really exciting. So while we're on leagues, just give a quick update on the second half hub league. So this is for £250 in 10th place. Edwin Robinson dropped from 7th to 10th after the update. He's in 10th. Martin Sinclair stays in 9th. Graham Fiddler, whose team is open. Graham, if you want to lock your team, has gone down from 6th to 8th. LC Bishop has gone up from 10th to 7th. Oliver Brown is in 6th place. Samuel Warren has jumped up to 5th place. Ollie Bro is in 4th place. Pete Kemp up to 3rd. Cian McKenna, who's been leading for most of this, is in 2nd place. And in 1st place at the moment in pole position, just 2 points ahead of Cian, is Roger Morgan with an unlocked team. Roger, get in and lock your team because you're only 2 points ahead. You don't want anyone to do that. So that is an episode. So at the moment, the £250 is on its way to Roger Morgan, but obviously there is a week left, 17 matches left. Good luck to everyone on that. So finally, at nearly 10:15, we jump onto Dan's rant. So Dan, apart from a stream taking an hour and 15 minutes, what are your rants this week? What are you angry about?
Hey, nothing is going to be as angry as my missus is going to be when I get back inside. My rants this week, apart from everyone scoring points so I don't have, that's pretty bloody annoying. Got a couple of little moans. Do you have Mr. Kipling in your country? Do you have them cakes?
In your country? We're still in Britain, mate. We're not. Yeah, we do.
Well, I know you're on different time zones, aren't you? What time is it there? But do you have them, Mr. Kipling, where they get 2 cakes in one, like little things? You open it, but there's 2 in there. Do you have that?
Yep.
Well, who's going to just eat one? Do you know what I mean? That's trying to make you overweight in it. You got to have 2 because you don't just leave the other one. So that's a little moan. Do any of you watch that Peter Crouch thing on a Saturday night?
No, I don't.
Don't. Fucking terrible.
Right.
So that's a couple of little moans, right? Do you, in your country as well, do you have Deliveroo?
Yeah.
Yes.
What is that about? I don't get it. It's not a moan. It's just a general question, right? So from my understanding, right, if you want a McDonald's or something, but you're too of a lazy shite to walk, like someone who I work with, McDonald's is 3 minutes away. So you think, I'd have a McDonald's, I'll walk there and eat it, and that'll use the calories or whatever. So they'll get some pervert on a bike to bring them a cold burger or something and eat it. I just don't understand it. Like, we've got an obesity problem in this country anyway. And like, why are they doing things like, I don't understand. That's never warm, is it? You like, even if you get it in a drive-thru or something, by the time you get parked up, or if you try, I live about a minute from McDonald's, by the time you get home, it's getting cold. So I don't understand Deliveroo. Just, if you want a McDonald's, you at least walk there, can't you? Jesus.
Everything's instant, mate. I can't use the Wetherspoons app. I just can't do it. I can't just stay at my table and order a pint to be delivered. I feel so lazy. It's just
like, I don't mind getting that's all. I'll get an Indian delivered and stuff like that. I don't mind to take one, but like someone on a bike you a burger that all fell apart, wasn't it? Because they're all biked and gone up, lumping up curbs and stuff like that. So I don't know. Someone's brought you a cold burger on a bike because you couldn't be asked to walk to McDonald's. It's just more of I just can't get my head around it than a moan. It's just, do we need that as a job? You see them all hanging around the McDonald's, like all these geezers on bikes. And you're like, God, that's mad, isn't it? That is a job.
Everything's instant nowadays, mate. It's the thing. Everything's instant.
It's all about supply and demand, Dan.
Yeah,
mad, isn't it?
This is it. Okay, so that is from us. That is it from us this week. Just to say, we will be back at 9 p.m. next week for the final time this season to give our reaction to the finale of next week's games. We also want to hear your glory and despair mini league stories. So by the time we stream live at 9 o'clock, the game should have updated. So your mini league glory and despair stories we want. We will also find out who wins the Sky FF 50k as well as the Sky Leagues as well. We're backing one of our lads in the chat in the WhatsApp group, so we're really, really close. Best of luck to all of you. And we will also touch on a few season learnings, and we want to hear yours too. So next week we want to really make it interactive. How have you done in your mini leagues, and what have you learned, and what will you be taking into next season? So have a good think of that. I will also be doing the FPL live stream on the FPL channel for Fantasy Football Hub during the games themselves. So if you do fancy a bit of commentary on that, please join me on that. Okay, so Dan, where can we find you apart from ordering Indian via Deliveroo?
Well, I call them up, mate. I do it old school. I just ring them up and ask Dan, send the usual. Twitter, Dan Cox 82. Here on the podcast every Sunday. Please subscribe. And again, thanks to everyone for tuning in and your comments and questions. And we really do appreciate it. Twitter, Dan Cox 82. Just put up the captaincy polls and anything else on there. So, they're the best places.
Love your job. And you, Paul?
At Paul McAnulty 1 on Twitter.
Love your job. And my Twitter handle is at Fergie222. So this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub and Sky and TFF YouTube channel, and available in all major podcast libraries. If you liked what you watched, please click like. It really does help us. It helps our rankings. And subscribe in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Our handles on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok are at FFH_HQ. And our podcast Twitter handle, which Dan runs, is at FFH_Sky. So please follow and feel free to ask any questions. Our website is fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, where you'll find everything you need for fantasy football all under one roof, including player comparison tools, the fixture ticker, Opta stats, top player team reveals, and much, much more. We can be used for both Sky and FPL. Also on the website, specifically for Sky, former winner Dan reveals his transfers, captains and general thoughts at 1 p.m. every Friday, exclusively to Fantasy Football Hub members. An essential read if you're a serious Sky player. Ian Parrin's Sky Planner is every Sky manager's best friend, and I also write my weekly multi-format diary article, which includes my Sky team transfers, captains and progress. Dan and Paul are very active in our Sky WhatsApp chat group, along with some other great Sky players, including Mark Edworthy, Paul Jones, Luke Wilson, Ian Parrin, and many of the guys who are in this chat and who are in the top 10 overall. This is available to Premium Hub members. Some of the guys in the group are smashing it this season. If you aren't in the WhatsApp group and you really want to challenge for your minis next season, be part of a great community of Sky players and get first-hand advice from the very best Sky managers. You really want to think about signing up. It is a great investment. If you fancy a free 7-day Hub membership trial, go to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk/free trial and sign up. For our YouTube viewers, the link is in the description below. I'm sure everyone knows, but the Planet FPL guys do their Sky podcast every Wednesday. Make sure you tune into them. And as mentioned, we'll be back live at 9 p.m. next Sunday evening for the big one. You won't want to miss it. Thank you and good night. Good night.